Asia was blanketed by a thick cloud of volcanic ash due to a 75,000-year-old volcano that exploded, known as the Toba eruption. In an excellent book titled The Real Eve, Steve Oppenheimer calls the event the greatest natural calamity to befall any humans ever. The Toba explosion left a plum of ash over the entirety of India for approximately 5 years, which Oppenheimer calls a nuclear winter, in which almost every living thing in that area would have been wiped out. There are layers of ash in India up to 15 feet deep. That's pretty catastrophic. Many of us died. It's quite possible that many of the earliest human populations in Western India, Pakistan, and the Middle East, including lineages that might have been older than L3, were killed off within years. This left two remnants on either side of the explosion's epicenter: the people of Africa and the people of Australasia. Our ancestors eventually resettled India and the Middle East once the smoke cleared, but the Toba eruption caused something known as a genetic bottleneck throughout Asia. Only small groups of survivors remain, and it is from these ancestral populations the many modern humans descend today. This will explain why the Y DNA marker, known as YAP, is found among the oldest populations in the Near East, the Andaman Islands, Cambodia, and Japan, but it is entirely absent from India. According to Sacha Jones, this bottleneck would have greatly reduced modern human population diversity as well as population size. With climatic ameliorations, population explosion out of this bottleneck would have occurred. Post-Toba populations would have reduced in such size that founder effects, genetic drift, and local adaptations occurred, resulting in rapid population differentiation. In this way, the Toba eruption of 74,000 years would have shaped the diversity that is seen in modern human populations today. In other words, the seeds of racial differentiation were first sown in Toba's wake. Toba expert Stanley Ambrose suggested decades ago that Toba could have been responsible for human differentiation, producing the various races and other signs of major biological and cultural diversity. But Ambrose believed that this event occurred while all humans were still in Africa, where Toba's effects would have been negligible. We now know that Toba struck in the epicenter of the human population movement that was sweeping across Asia from East Africa to the Pacific Ocean. In fact, Toba literally hit dead center, cutting through the middle of this movement, killing much of the early human population in India. It was somewhere in this area that one part of the human population began developing a stronger African morphology, while the other part became increasingly Australasian. As Dr. Victor Gruer has noted, for example, if only a few members of a particular migrant colony happen to have what we would now consider Australoid features, and that group happened by sheer chance to survive, while most of the others died or migrated elsewhere, then such a development could lead to the establishment of a new race with Australoid features exclusively, Thus, it's not difficult to see how can an event such as Toba could have been the trigger for certain very fundamental changes, cultural, genetic, and morphological, which could explain the highly structured differences we now see among different populations in different parts of the world. The Toba survivors who became ancestors of the Australasian people, or the Australoid, may have looked somewhat Australoid or Proto-Australasian, but not strongly so. We now know this because the earliest human remains in Australia are Australoid, but their features aren't nearly as strong as modern Aborigines. Modern Aborigines have had over 60,000 years for their features to develop in relative isolation. Over time, their features became more distinct and homogeneous. In other parts of the world, Australasian or Australoid people evolved a little differently. This is why the Australasian or Australoid people of Japan don't look exactly like the Australoid or Australasian or Melanesian, Polynesian people of India. This is also why we won't find people who look exactly like Australasian Aborigines in East Africa, but many of their physical differences are due to local evolution, genetic drift, and the founder effect. When you look below the surface at the gene, you can see the shared heritage. At the 2005 Paleoanthropology Conference, Sarah Titchkoff and Floyd Reed of the University of Maryland connected to genetic dots between East Africans and their distant Australoid cousins as far east as New Guinea. So don't get the wrong idea. Australoid people are black people. Australoid and Africoid people are merely two shades of the same black ancestral people. Anthropologist Alfred Cork Haddon saw such a connection between Australoid and Africoid people that he called them together the Austro-African or Black race. God rise. Like and subscribe. Peace to my guys. Love is thicker than blood and water. Separation leads to more separation. We are the source because we are black. We are everywhere at once, and we know we have forgotten, but we will remember because we're learning. Peace to my gods. God rising. This is Chemistry Realignment, and we are on Sankofa's time.